crazy.
Well, there goes your home.
Yep.
And again, they offered no other type of resources, no shelter, nothing.
Nothing. They just pulled us over as soon as they hit 8 o'clock.
And
when we were already on the way to go, like we were already in the car ready to go, like everything was ready to go. If they just waited 1 minute, we could have been out of here.
And all your belongings in the RV are now on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
With your beautiful dog.
Yes.
Well, I'm really sorry.
I mean, that's how the law works, I guess, or I don't know. I really don't know. I just feel like they could have gave us 5 more minutes and we would have been out of here if they just would have got out of our way, you know?
Why can't we get by in this country anymore just working one fucking job like our parents and grandparents did? But when did survival become a group project? Everybody's so quick to yell, just work harder, grind more, pick a side hustle. But the real question is, why the hell should we have to? Why is one full-time job no longer enough to afford food, rent, and peace of mind? Why are we working 50, 60 hours a week away from our families and, still checking our bank apps like we committed a crime? Why is owning a home now treated like some luxury fantasy instead of the bare minimum of our parents achieved with a high school diploma and a single paycheck? Why are people forced to DoorDash after 10-hour shifts just to afford eggs, gas, and maybe prescription medicine, maybe even diapers? Why do people celebrate people working for themselves into exhaustion, but shame them for admitting they're struggling? Why do we keep pretending this is normal? You shouldn't need a second job to just keep your head above water. You shouldn't have to burn out just to barely get by. Why is everything rising except our wages? This isn't laziness. This isn't lack of ambition. I mean, this is like a system designed to drain you and convince you that it's your fault. I mean, it's not your fault. You're not behind. We're being buried alive and then told to be grateful for the dirt.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi Bahashem Rakakradash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all sincere Akim, pushing his word across the 4 corners of the world. And as you can see how millions of Americans are being affected by this cost of living crisis. And where that's forcing a lot of these Americans to lose their homes and to adopt this alternative living, such as living out in vehicles, vans, RVs, and even storage units, only to stay afloat within this turbulent economy. And due to Trump's recent federal response, these new laws and regulations are about to be an even bigger challenge for these Americans living out in their vehicles. And as you just saw from these opening videos, how within DC, the police and city workers are dismantling homeless encampments. And according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, over 770,000 of Americans are experiencing homelessness on a single night. And mind you, America's supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. This great, powerful, sinful kingdom even hijacked the biblical phrase, the land of milk and honey, which that's supposed to invoke some type of sense of great abundance, fertility, prosperity, great bountifulness. However, this homeless crisis within America is only a great stain of America's glory unto the rest of the world. And that takes me right to Habakkuk 2 verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi's right hand should be turned unto thee, and shameful spirit should be on thy glory. So America, concerning this homeless crisis, crime, the cost of living crisis, and just how more and more of Americans are uploading videos on social media and ranting about this inflation crisis and how the new American dream is to move out of America. And you best believe that these other nations are seeing this. And again, mind you, that America prides itself as the greatest country within the world. Look at the political and economic turmoil that's currently going on within America. Like, look at how they're treating the homeless population. And that same effect of this new federal response is only going to be like a domino effect upon other cities within America very soon. And a great portion of these homeless people are veterans, individuals who put their lives on the line for America. And right there alone, that's really a great shame, and more so a spot upon America's glory. So again, thou art filled with shame for glory, drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. So America's glory is definitely fading. And that takes me right to Revelation 18 verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And that wine of the wrath of her fornication is going into that Babylonian wine in the forms of westernization or Americanization, America's democracy, which propagates a heavy doest thou wilt spirit. And what comes out of that? Feminism, black culture, sexual liberation, which creates whoredom. And that's all a mass of confusion and chaos. And that negative vibration is starting to rub off on these other nations. And that's because they drank some of that Babylonian wine. And now they are spiritually and morally intoxicated. So for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And that takes me right to Revelation 18:23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And again, that goes into that fading glory of America. That thrill within America is gone. A lot of these Americans are stressed out. They're starting to find out how the American dream was based on lies, and it's more so an American nightmare. A lot of these Americans cannot financially indulge into the bread and circus or that spirit of mirth, and that's because they do not have the financial means to do so. So the city of confusion is definitely being broken down, and that's by Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi extracting that beacon of light. America's not hitting like it used to, which entails the somber reality for a lot of these Americans. They're coming to that conclusion. So in the light of a candle should shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride should be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. We just read that within Revelation 18:3, going into that Babylonian wine, which is a type of wine not beneficial for your spiritual nor your moral being. And more so, it's not good for the welfare of the earth. And one of those many sorceries within America was by educating us as little children and believing into this so-called American dream. And come to find out that this so-called American dream was never meant for you biblical Israelites within America. And that same sentiment is being held upon the so-called middle class of America, and where they are starting to see that new harsh reality. And that's good for them. And that takes me right to Isaiah 14 verse 4 within the NLT, and that's the New Living Translation. You will taunt the king of Babylon. You will say, the mighty man has been destroyed. Yes, your insolence is ended. And the king of Babylon is going into Esau, Edom, who are the so-called Caucasian race within today's time. These are the biblical Edomites that Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi appointed to have global governance within the end days. before the second return of Yahawashi. So the mighty man has been destroyed. Yes, your insolence is ended. And that's going into how rude, disrespectful, and arrogant that Esau Edom really is. Like, look how the nobility of Esau Edom enforces these grievous draconian laws upon their fellow Americans, and more so fellow Edomites. Verse 5, for the Lord Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi has crushed your wicked power and broken your evil rule. And here's the point. You struck the people with endless blows of rage and held the nations in your angry grip with unrelenting tyranny. And again, that's by imposing these draconian executive orders, regulations, and policies upon the poor. Then on top of that, you're deliberately tanking the American economy even more, and where you're making it even harder to live for the average American citizen. Like, these Americans are really financially hurting. And that takes me right to Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt. And that burden goes into like that weights, pressure, that load of anxiety, stress, depression, hopelessness, all upon the backs of these Americans. And now where you have the average middle class so-called white American are feeling those economic hardships. And they're uploading videos on social media by the masses and complaining about this cruel Lord. So therefore, that's a great burden upon America. And it says, behold, the Lord Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi riding upon a swift cloud, which goes into the so-called UFOs, which are the chariots of Israel, and should come into Egypt, referencing to America, and the idols of Egypt should be moved in his presence, and the heart of Egypt should melt in the midst of it. And we are definitely seeing that being played out within today's time. How that bold American prideful spirit is being extracted out from these Americans. And now where you will have a lot of Americans to say that they are not proudful being Americans. So that great American pride is being depleted out from these Americans. And call Halayim Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi by witnessing this within these end times. Verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, which goes into the Americans against the Americans, because you can see a great divide amongst these Americans. Like, for instance, this recent federal response within DC. Like, you have a great portion of Americans, they are for this new bill or regulation. And vice versa, you have a great portion of Americans that are not for this new bill or regulation. So what does that insinuate? Great political turmoil, as is stated within 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter within the GNT. And also shows you how greatly divided America really is within these last days. And that's a telltale sign by our Lord Yahawashi that you have a kingdom falling. And let's get right quick. Mark 3:23 within the NLT. Yahawashi called them over and responded with an illustration. How can Satan cast out Satan? He adds, a kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. And all of this economic and political turmoil that we are currently witnessing is definitely brewing up for a civil war 2.0. Verse 25. Similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And what's happening within the so-called United States? It's a lot of great division, separation, and chaos between these Americans. And again, that's a heavy spiritual indicator that this American society is definitely on the brink of collapse. Verse 26, and if Satan is divided and fights against himself, how can he stand? He would never survive. All right, so jumping back to Isaiah 14 and verse 6, you struck the people with endless blows of rage and held the nations in your angry grip with unrelenting tyranny. And the real oligarchs are that hidden hand of Esau Edom going into the nobility of them, and where they are using Donald Trump to be their puppet and to implement these draconian executive measures upon the people, which is by being that cruel Lord. So again, back in Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi riding upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved in his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Because America is definitely based on witchcraft, and it gets its ideologies from these ancient kingdoms or empires that once ruled. For instance, ancient Babylon, ancient Egypt, and of course, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And America just balled up into one. And that's where you have that mass confusion. Hence, the city of confusion. But it's stated within Isaiah, the 47th chapter, how to stand now with thy enchantments. And that's because your left-handed witchcraft that you use and benefited you for so many years and more so centuries, it's not being easily affected upon the masses as it once was. And that's because a lot of people are finding out about the so-called Illuminati, where your true power was within your secrecy. And now you have the average person within America and really throughout the whole world starting to find out about the so-called shadow government or these secret societies. So that's that foreskin being uncovered, and that's bringing forth shameful spewing upon your glory. Verse 4, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. And President Donald Trump has to fit this prophecy right here. Like, look at the momentum, how he's moving towards this left-handed great reset compared to these previous puppet U.S. presidents. Like, he's really moving for a cause because he's trying to implement this great reset and where he's going to cause all, according to Revelation 13:16, to receive that mark. So, and the Egyptians will I give over the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, said the Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI of hosts. So that pretty much sums up the lesson through the spirit. You know, as you can see within 2025 concerning America's homelessness, it's really growing into a great pressing concern. Then on top of that, you have the middle class being affected by the inflation, where the cost of living is going up like crazy. Food and gas prices are steadily rising. And that sentiment is pushing more and more of Americans further into debt. But the wages are staying the same within these different employments. So all of this economic and political turmoil is just brewing up for a great Civil War 2.0 within America. Like, at this point, it's unprecedented. But more so, it's end-time biblical prophecy being fulfilled. So with that, hopefully you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.